this is the first in our series of conversations around the job market and career market for cybersecurity professionals. And it is changing much faster, like everything else, changing faster than it has been in the last few years. And so our approach is to really interview people that have a good perspective on what's going on. And today, my special guest is Jason Black, who is a Chief Information Security Officer at Tailored Brands. He's been a colleague and friend for about at least 13 years. So welcome to our first interview, Jason.
Thank you, Fred.
And so what we want to talk about is your perspective on what's going on in the job market. What do you see as hot trends and things students should know about? Because all of our students are in our master's degree program. It takes like a couple of years to get this degree. So I'm trying to help them figure out what sorts of things will be important, not necessarily this minute, but in the future. And so one thing I wonder about are the different kinds of roles that are out there in security. Do you see some roles becoming less important, other roles becoming more important? What kind of are the sort of big picture trends that you see in information security roles?
So that's a great question, Fred. I actually think that all of the roles we see today are very important. And the reason I say that is because, just to use an old cliche, you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
And if you think of that link, that chain, that safety net, every different type of security role has a part to play in what we do today. I think the challenge we see today is doing all of those roles as well as we can, and with a level of maturity and with business alignment. So as I look at a traditional security team from my own perspective, yep, I kind of see 3 or 4 different types of roles. You have a kind of a security operations type focus, which is going to be looking at the logging and monitoring, and just looking at all information sources to see if they can, spot something bad going on or something unauthorized or inappropriate happening, and to identify risks and threats before they impact the company. So that's kind of very much a monitoring role. And that's important because a lot of things you may see in that monitoring role could be, shall we say, bad hygiene within your environment. It may not be malicious, but bad hygiene can provide an opening for a malicious actor coming in. So it's a very crucial role, although for somebody with not the right mindset, could be a very boring role because it's very repetitive, and it's almost looking for a needle in a needle stack. In addition to that, you have probably a more traditional security engineering type role, which is all about helping. It's a little bit more of a technical focus. It's about building systems in a secure manner, in a way that, so you could be building a system that is part of the security ecosystem. So you may be building firewalls and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that they are configured and built and designed in order to maximize your protection, your risk mitigation, and your controls. But in addition, as the business is building other systems, they have other business requirements. We also play a consultative role in that security engineering type focus to make sure that everything else is being built in as much as possible a secure and compliant manner. So that's 2 very distinct roles that have a very technical focus. And then moving on from that, you have kind of a governance compliance type focus. Governance and compliance is very important still today. Compliance has been important for many years. For me, good, strong governance, in addition to everything else we do, is what sets us apart from the average player. It's what helps us to mature. It becomes that continuous improvement cycle. It becomes a matter of trust but verify, to make sure we are doing the right things, and to make sure we're keeping up with that moving target that may require us to do something a little different from what we did yesterday. And then I think a 4th kind of mindset or discipline for me, which is kind of a huge overlap with good governance, is risk management. So from a security perspective within an IT organization, I view the security team and the role of the CISO as being responsible for the IT part of enterprise risk management, because everything else we do that you consider part of a traditional security role, the risk management is what puts it in a business context and allows you to be business aligned, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you. That's a very good description of the sort of four areas. I like your description of governance as being responsible for continuous improvement. I think, a lot of people just say, okay, governance, we're going to do it for compliance reasons. We have to do it. But the whole continuous improvement is so critical. And I like your description of looking for needles in needle stacks for monitoring. That's much harder than finding needles in haystacks, right? That's easy. That's a piece of cake.
Yeah, you can use a metal detector if you're just looking for a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, that's so true. Now, I think that's very good. What about, one of the things we're trying to do in our program is focus on software-related security issues and cloud security-related issues. What kinds of new technologies, those or others, do you see that security professionals should be aware of, that they may need to protect because the business is using them, or they may need to learn more about them to actually use them in fulfilling security roles? Anything particular come to mind there?
I'm going to answer the question a slightly different way, maybe even dodge the question slightly. But you see, I'm very transparent when I do that. Okay. I could name some technologies, and the list would potentially be completely different tomorrow. So as I think about that question and that challenge, for me, it becomes more of a question of how are you going to assess and mitigate the risk of the unknown. And part of that plays into some traditional, risk management type approaches in the IT world of least privileged access, and apply that to your data. But it also gets down to, in my mind, a philosophy of trusted versus untrusted. So all those other technologies, all those other things the business may need to do, as they get further away from what I'm able to directly control and manage, it becomes less trusted and more untrusted, and that kind of influences the approach. That the technology for me seems secondary when I look at it that way. So everybody wants to run around and use BYOD, which I actually have no problem with. I'd like to do that too. But what we don't see is, regardless of that technology, regardless of the fact that it may be an iOS device, an Android device, or even a Chromebook or Chrome OS at this point, right? It doesn't really matter what that technology is if I don't have the underlying infrastructure that allows me to appropriately manage how you connect in and use the resources of the business. So for me, it becomes a question of almost viewing those things as third-party risk management, or some kind of combination of third-party risk management and IoT. It's probably our equivalent of IoT, because we're not really running around in tailored brands using anything and everything. We don't have connected refrigerators or anything like that, or connected vehicles. We're a fashion company. So we have our own version of that. But it does tend to lead us more to questions of trusted versus untrusted. How can I leverage this untrusted technology for business use? So is that the best?
Yeah, that's a very good answer. So what I'm hearing is that the actual bits and bytes of the technology are less important to you than your ability to assure or move it into your trusted environment, which involves, if I'm understanding you right, a focus on people and process. Is that kind of a fair statement to what you need to do? Or I remember you were a big believer in process as well.
Yeah. That's a big part of it, but it's not just that. There's still that technical component.
Okay.
But it's a matter of, how do I build an environment and a control system, a control environment that allows us to interface with those untrusted elements. so that people can have the flexibility and be agile in how they do business. And so there's still a huge technical component to that, but it's not technology for the sake of technology.
Okay. Maybe two more questions if you have a couple of minutes. So people talk a lot about certifications, and there's CISSP, CISM. So do you have any thoughts on, let's say you're a new graduate, or even somebody with 10 years work experience, you want to move into the security field? Are there specific certifications that you think are important? And I know everybody says you need hands-on experience in internships and education and all these things. Are there some that you think would help people move into a security role, or is it something that isn't, primary when you hire a new person or transfer a person? They can get the certifications after they're in the role, or what are your thoughts on that?
It's almost a chicken and the egg question.
Yes.
So, if you do not have any direct experience, I think having achieved the certifications goes a long way to getting your foot in the door.
Okay.
If you've been a security guy for 10, 15 years, then the certifications are really nice. They demonstrate something, they mean something, but your experience at that point is probably more important for me. So I think it depends upon the individual, the aptitude of the individual. That's kind of what I look for, how much experience they've had. And if they haven't had that experience, then you augment it. You certainly flip so that you're looking at the certifications as a primary source of validating what they're capable of.
Okay, so it can fill in some gaps that you might have in hands-on. So good.
Yeah.
My last question is, so for our student, we have some students that are with 10, 20 years business experience, a lot of management experience, things like that. They want to add in, we're giving them more hands-on and sort of theoretical security background in this master's program. I guess one question would be, what other skills should they think about if they want to get to director or C-level? What do you think are the top things they should be thinking about? I'll put you on the spot with this question.
There are days when I feel what I do is not very specialized. It's not a specialized security person. Sometimes you're just a out and out leader. That's what you're expected to be.
Okay.
To be a leader of security, or a leader of networking, or a leader of something else. So I think they're important skills. I don't think companies anymore, when you're looking for as strong a team as possible, you're not really looking, or you're no longer looking for somebody who can only lead a security team. If you have leadership capabilities, you have leadership capabilities. So that's kind of the first part of that question. I think the other aspect is if you have a business mindset, I view that as being highly beneficial at this point, because what we have and what we've had for many years are very, very experienced and passionate technical people in security roles, which is great, and we really need that expertise. But technical people sometimes view things in a very black and white way. You must do this, and you must do it this way. And what you tend to miss is that business alignment, that business context. And so I think being able to bring some business rationale to any technical discussion is very important in this day and age, especially as also in this day and age, boards of directors are being more and more held directly accountable for what happens in the company. So they're having to be part of the cybersecurity discussion in more detail than they've ever been, which means they have to catch up pretty quickly, which means if you walk in and sound like a geek, then you're just their eyes are gonna glaze over, and you're not going to be giving them the guidance that they need, because they won't be able to follow. So for me, it's that the ability to manage a technical team and lead a technical team, but still be a business person.
Very good. Right. So the business mindset and then the leadership skills, but it's good to have some underlying tech background, right? Because you're leading a tech team, so you need to make sure they're doing the right thing. So
Absolutely, yeah. If I told my team I didn't know what a firewall was, I think they'd be laughing me out the room. but
okay.
I'm many years past ever being asked to configure a firewall. I think I should be very afraid if anybody needed me to do that now.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate I think these are really good, insightful comments. And if you're on the East Coast, please let me know. We'll love to have lunch and catch up face to face. So thanks again. And have a great day and nice to chat with you.
Good speaking to you again, Fred. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.